How are you doing today, Mackenzi?
Hi, I'm great. I'm so happy to be talking to you.
Man, I'll tell you what, I've been waiting to talk with you because your new book, Winter Soldier, I'll tell you in a very subliminal adult way on how important this book is. You cover World War II, and my father fought in World War II, and even, Colonel North told us that if you do not tell the story, and if you don't begin a process of communicating a story, then how do you expect the next generations to research that story? And I'm proud of you for taking this story forward.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Where was the idea to place it in the where it actually begins? And because did you just open up your mind and let it and then plant the seed? How did all of this begin for you with Bucky Barnes?
I was lucky that I had this great character that already existed in Marvel canon that I was working from the foundation of. So many artists and writers and the creative people I really admire have laid this incredible foundation of this just fascinating, interesting character and the time period in which he's living and working and coming of age. So I feel like I kind of cheated in that a lot of people did the work for me, and then I just got to frost this incredibly decadent cake that I had been presented with.
See, and I see that as a continuation. That isn't that the process of even music? We're inspired by those before us.
Exactly. It's me collaborating with all of these many brilliant minds that have come before me.
The way that you humanize this story, when you pick it up and you physically read the book, because for me, I'm an adult and I've got this book in my hands. There's such a vibration of excitement as well as wonder in it. And I like going into those places where I'm forced to wonder.
Oh, thank you. It's vibrating with excitement because Bucky's like my favorite Marvel character and has been for so long. The first I got into the Marvel canon because of the movies, like so many people. I wanted to be a comic book reader desperately as a kid and couldn't figure out how to be. And then had the movies that sort of opened up this whole universe and taught me who these characters were. And then the first comics I really got into were the Ed Brubaker run of the Winter Soldier. And so I love this character, and I feel so lucky that I got to essentially get paid to write fan fiction about him. So the excitement is real and true and comes from getting to write about a character that I just have loved for so long.
Now, I'm not going to be the only guy or girl that says something like this, but because I don't know what it is about red lipstick, but when you bring that up and that becomes part of the story, that brings up a big chunk of my own personal life. I don't know what it is about red lipstick. It wasn't a positive in my life because it meant my mom had to go to work. But I can't be the only kid that sees red lipstick and all of a sudden you go, oh, you had me at hello. What's going on here? Tell me more.
Well, I feel like it's important to be clear that Bucky Barnes is not the one wearing the red lipstick in this scenario, lest everyone enter into this book with the wrong expectations. But he has sort of a love interest, a friend, a confidant that enters in halfway through the book who is constantly in the middle of running for their lives, reapplying her red lipstick. I think for me, I love the sort of the femininity of it. I love that red lipstick has been a symbol of power and resistance and subversion through beauty standards by women throughout history. I wish I could remember her name. I think it's I don't even want to say it lest I get it wrong. But there was a commander in the Philippine Liberation Revolution, whatever you would like to call it, who iconically wore lipstick into every battle. You read about women who were involved in the war movement in World War II who would apply lipstick before every sort of adventure. I was going to say adventure is the wrong word, but every fight they would go into, because it's a way of preserving yourself and preserving who you are and the things that are important to you in the midst of so much conflict and terror where it's so easy to lose yourself.
See, that's the reason why I like to dig deep in and to find out things such as red lipstick. And the reason why is because now you've invited readers to do some research, to find out for themselves, to be able to sit there and go, man, did you know? And then when they're explaining Winter Soldier, they're going to say, wait until this and you tell me what you feel when you did this. I love it when an author is so open and they're willing to share, how they were touched before it hit the page.
Yeah, I think all of my books are a collection of me sharing things that I've discovered and found interesting and want to tell people more about. That's part of, I've read a lot of historical fiction, and like you said, this is set in World War II, so in spite of being a Marvel novel, it's very much a historical fiction novel as well. And I mean, I read about history, and all I want to do is share things with people. I want to tell everybody these stories and share these incredible things I'm learning. And so, and I think it's the little details sometimes that really humanize the past and make history seem like more than just a collection of big events that happen to a collective people on a large scale. Like they're human stories and they're individual things. I think it's very easy to think about like current events happening to us on an individual level, but we don't sort of grant that same individuality to people in the past often. It's important to find ways to remember that history isn't something that happens to us all collectively in the same way. It's something that happens to a lot of people in different ways on an individual level. And historical fiction is great at putting that individuality and that humanity back into stories of the past.
You bring up a very interesting point when you say that you like to share what it is that you're learning, because I know a lot of writers that I call hider writers. They write and then they hurry up and hide it. And I ask them, I say, well, why don't you release something? I don't know what to talk about. I don't know what to write about. And you just said it. You know, you share what you are learning. That is such an open, honest approach to putting, thoughts on a page.
I mean, it's the only thing I know. like it's the reason I learn these things, and I immediately want to tell everybody to know because they're so cool. And you don't want to keep these facts to yourself. So I want to share them with everybody. And that's just in my nature, I guess, as a human being. If I wasn't a writer, I think I'd find other ways, even if that was just like cornering strangers on the street and being like, "Did you know?"
So now, when you share the opposite side of morals, does that change you personally? I mean, do you have, because I would have to meditate afterwards if I'm writing about something on the other side of morals.
I mean, I think it's sort of like being an actor. You're inhabiting a different person and a different character, and it's important to understand that everybody, even the people you don't agree with or people who you find sort of villainous or on the wrong side, are the most interesting version of every villain is someone who is absolutely completely convinced they are the hero of their story and that they're doing things for the right reasons and the right people. Very few villains are acting in a way that they think is villainous, and I think those are sort of the most boring villains. You want a villain, you want every character to think that if you flipped the narrative and told it from their point of view, they would be the hero. And it's for me, it's a thought exercise, right? In empathy and understanding, and even if I don't agree with them, to sort of understand where they're coming from is so essential for writing authentic and realistic characters.
So when you explore the younger life of James Buchanan, do you have to put yourself in a place of research to find out what the sights, the scents, everything that was going on around him so that you do get it right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of, I do a lot of reading. I read a lot of other people's historical fiction that's set in the same time, because I think historical fiction is often a really, really good vehicle for figuring out how to experiencing things on that sort of individual, personal, sensory level. I read a lot of historical fiction that is set in the time period. I try and watch other television shows or movies or things that are also set in that time period, and then also do a lot of historical research and read as many primary sources as I can, and then try and imagine how it would look through the eyes of one person experiencing it.
Where did you learn the fine art of connection in the way that very easily somebody could have turned this into an action graphic, but you didn't? You used your words to paint the pictures inside my thoughts. So in a way, I see what it is you're writing, but that requires a writer that knows how to make a connection.
Oh, I went to school for it. I have a master's degree in creative writing, but also there's so much of it that comes from just reading other people's stories and learning by example, and learning by watching other authors I admire do it effectively, and being so caught up and transported and changed by their books and their words, and then being inspired and wanting to do the same thing, and wanting to make other people feel the way that my favorite books have made me feel. A lot of it is, I think we think about writing as something you're either good at or you're not. it's like playing an instrument. Nobody sits down at the piano and expects to immediately play a concerto. You have to practice and you have to get better, and so it's been a lifetime of practicing and studying other people who are doing it better than me, and trying to emulate and do what they're doing.
Do you ever think of those days where someone is going to be inspired to also be a storyteller, and one day you will meet them on the path, and that conversation will begin?
I hope so. I hope I'm laying groundwork for somebody else.
Oh yeah, because it's all passing forward. Everything that you and I do, it's not for us. We're passing it forward.
Yeah, I mean that's life. You live for the next generation.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Mackenzi, where can people go to find out more about you, to support you? And I know that you've got more books on the way, because Winter Soldier is what we're doing today. But I know that your creative source is saying, no, I've got many more books on the way.
Yeah, you can find me on MackenzieLee.com, or I'm on Instagram. That's Mackenzi Lee, which is TheMackenzielee.
Please come back to the show anytime in the future. The door is always going to be open for you, Mackenzi.
Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. You be brilliant today, okay?
Thank you. You too.